Kia ora tātou katoa. I'll open us with a karakia. Tūtawa mai runga, tūtawa mai raro, tūtawa mai roto, tūtawa mai waho, kia taua te mauri tū, kia taua te mauri ora, kia tātou katoa. Tūturu whakamaua, kia tina, hongi e, hui e, tai ki e. Ko te mihi tuatahi ki te atua, nana ihanga i ngā mea katoa. Ko te mihi tuarua ki ngā mate, haere, haere, haere. Kia koutou te hunga ora, ngā manuhiri kua tai mai, tīnā koutou, tīnā tātou katoa. Ko kaki puka te maunga, ko waipati awa, no te kuiti ahau. Ko te atatu ahau i noho ana kei sport waitakere ahau i mahi ana, ko Caitlin Nicole Horowhenua. Nō reira, tīnā koutou katoa. Kia ora. Welcome everyone. My name is Caitlin. I'm in the Healthy Families Waitakere team at Sport Waitakere in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. I'm your host for today, and I've also got Grace Voinovich, my colleague, helping out as well today. Kia ora, Grace. We're well aware this is still a time of uncertainty, and there are many families who are being impacted right now. We acknowledge the communities and organisations and groups who are working and constantly changing and adapting their services to meet the needs of communities and to make sure that our families stay safe and well and happy and healthy too. Even though this whole pandemic time has prevented us from our usual kanohi, kiti kanohi, our face-to-face meeting, there's still a lot of aroha, and it's our relationships that remain. I can see a number of you on the webinar today know each other. So thank you for coming on and seeing your peers and colleagues and friends, but also coming to listen to this kōrero today. I'll still introduce you to our speakers. We've got some awesome speakers today. We have Hayley, Buchan and Tom Pere from the Healthy Families Hutt Valley team. They're based out of Hutt City Council. And they'll be talking about how they've been working with local councils and sports organisations to break the link between fast food vouchers and Player of the Day rewards. At the end of Hayley and Tom's presentation, we will have time for them to answer any of your questions. So please, while they're talking, write your questions and comments into the chat on Facebook or on Zoom, and Grace and I will put these to them at the end of their presentation. At 11:30, we will hear from Stella O'Connor. She's in the Healthy Families Invercargill team based out of Sports Southland. She'll be talking about how closed streets, barriers and road cones can actually help people play. We will also have time for Stella to answer any of your questions at the end, so please write your questions into the chat. If you have questions for Hayley and Tom, put this in as well, and they can also answer them at the end when Grace and I put them to them. So it is now my pleasure to introduce you and hand you over to Hayley and Tom. If you want to make sure you're not on mute, and you can introduce yourselves. Kia ora korua.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko taranaki te maunga, ko Pātia te awa, no taranaki ahau, ko Buchan toku whānau, ko Hayley toku ingoa. Ngā mihi mahana kia tātou katoa. Thank you, Caitlin and team, for the introduction and for the opportunity to share our Player of the Day mahi through the Systems Change in Action webinar series. It's great to be here with you all and to see some of our colleagues and partners and stakeholders on this hui with us. My role is the Healthy Families Hutt Valley Manager, and Healthy Families Hutt Valley is a Ministry of Health funded prevention initiative, and we are one of the 10 Healthy Families New Zealand locations across Aotearoa. Hutt City Council is the lead provider for Healthy Families Hutt Valley, and as Caitlin said, we sit within our local council. Today we're going to share with you our journey of our Player of the Day initiative, and we hope that you might be able to join this movement with us wherever you are in the motu. So through our Healthy Families New Zealand approach and initiatives like our Player of the Day mahi, we aim to address the 6 conditions of change. By tackling these conditions, it allows us to reach sustainable systems change. I will now hand over to Tom, who will take you through our journey of how our Player of the Day initiative got started, what we've learned along the way, and how we are growing the movement, as well as how we're changing the system.
Kia ora Hayley, and tēnā koutou katoa, ko Tom Pere tōku ingoa, no tūranga nui a kiwa ahau, kei te ao kairangi ahau e noho ana, kei hioranga whānau ahau e mahi ana. Nō reira tēnā koutou. Kia ora, my name is Tom. I'm a systems innovator here at Healthy Families Hutt Valley. I've been part of the Healthy Families team since 2015. So I've seen this initiative from the start all the way to where we are now. As Hayley mentioned, I'm basically going to take you through the journey, all the pivotal moments in the success of the initiative, the resulting changes within the system, and where we see the initiative in the future. I think it's important to highlight that we first started this initiative with no set agenda. Our approach was to go to our sports club setting and find out where we needed to support. To do this, we started by mapping the sports club setting back in 2016. We looked at how the system worked, what the reality was for clubs, and the challenges that clubs faced. We met with clubs from around the Hutt Valley, regional sporting organisations and regional sporting trusts, and also looked at the data around participation rates. This process of meeting with clubs and codes was also important in that it helped us build relationships and networks within the sector. In the club space, our research showed that for many sports, participation rates were dropping. Sports like netball, touch and football had the highest participation rates. And sports that had the highest for Māori and Pacific were touch rugby, league, union and softball. The focus for Healthy Families Hutt Valley was to look at leverage opportunities that had the highest reach and impact for those that needed it. The research also showed us that clubs were struggling financially. Lower participation rates meant that there were less members paying subs and potentially less funding from national bodies. On top of this, general operating costs for the running of clubs were increasing, especially for those with club rooms. Therefore, any potential initiatives that we want to work together on can't have any financial impact on these clubs. Most sports at club level are also volunteer run. This means we couldn't expect clubs to do anything that would further impact the contribution being given by volunteers. We need to make sure any ideas are low maintenance and easy to implement for our sports clubs. Another big standout which came from our mapping was the strong link between alcohol and sports across all levels. Locally, clubs have a heavy reliance on bar takings and C4 gaming funding for income. Professionally, alcohol companies still play a major role in sponsorship. Consumption of alcohol while watching sports has become a cultural norm within sports. That being said, we also found that our codes are still concerned about this link between alcohol and sports. An example of this actually came from a regional sporting organisation based here in Wellington, who actually highlighted to us their concerns with sideline drinking in their social grades, but they stated they were hesitant to do anything about it as they worried they'd lose participation numbers. Like alcohol, there's also a strong link between sports and fast food. Locally, clubs are often left to find their own sponsorship, and with funding so tight, they're going to take whatever's given. The image here I've used is of a local rugby club in Wellington who had their jersey sponsored by a local McDonald's franchise. Sometimes this type of sponsorship is fed down from higher levels. Again, McDonald's, for example, have long sponsored junior football throughout the country. This is a sponsorship that comes from the top and it filters down through the junior grades. Professionally, this link is also very visible. For example, KFC are big sponsors of the NRL, Super Rugby, and Burger King in their sponsorship with Joseph Parker, New Zealand Breakers and Touch New Zealand. So basically it's throughout all sports. Despite this link though, most clubs that we talked to agreed that these types of fast food sponsorship didn't align with sports and being healthy. Another important insight that we took out of this mapping activity was that locally clubs often didn't have those obligations to sponsorship that was fed down from higher levels. These power dynamics were important to us as it meant we could possibly work with clubs directly around that sponsor barrier at a regional or national level. So here were our challenges. This was the reality for sports clubs within the region. And so what next? Where could we help clubs with these issues? What would be something that would have minimal pushback and easy to implement? What were the low-hanging fruit? Our research identified that there were two areas we could easily influence and have major impact. These were a focus on junior sport and something that promotes a positive, family-friendly environment. The big breakthrough for us was a simple conversation with a local touch rugby provider, Total Touch Wellington. They pretty much said to us they have Burger King vouchers because Touch New Zealand passed them down as part of their sponsorship, but they weren't obligated to use them. They said, if you can give us an alternative to our burger vouchers, then we'll use it. This was our opportunity. Our big light bulb moment came when our divisional manager at Hutt City Council, who is also a Healthy Families Hutt Valley Leadership Group member, he suggested the idea of pool passes as he was in charge of pools, and the rest, I guess, is history. We took this idea and we built an initiative around it. We wanted it to be clear it wasn't as simple as giving out a free voucher. We went back to our issues that we'd found during the mapping phase and thought, how could we weave some of these into the initiative? And this is what we came up with. The Go the H2O Play of the Day certificate, which promotes water as the drink of choice and offered a free entry into any Hutt City Council pool in Lower Hutt. To be eligible for the certificate, the club had to demonstrate a pro-water kaupapa promoting drinking water to their juniors. These weren't just a Play of the Day certificate, they had a triple benefit. So number one, it offered an alternative to what had become the norm of a burger voucher. On top of this, it also highlighted the conversation about unhealthy sponsorship. Number two, it shared a positive message around encouraging sporting juniors to drink water as opposed to things like sports drinks, which are often loaded with sugar and not necessary for juniors. And lastly, it created an opportunity for physical activity through the free pool pass. There was also the added benefit where family members who also engaged in physical activity as a result of them going to the pool. We launched this initiative with Total Touch at the Hutt Park module. So here's a little video from Bronwyn Yankee from Total Touch about the changes they made.
Hi, I'm Bronwyn Yankee from Total Touch. We have taken on the pro-water message and we spread the word about being pro-water through our social media, at our managers' packs and also at the parks. And we're communicating internally with our staff in respects of being pro-water and not drinking any other sorts of drinks in view of the public as they are role models to those who are at our parks as well. So the differences that we're seeing at the parks is after we changed taking out the fizzy drinks from our prize bags, is we got some good feedback about the healthy nature of the prize bags, which is great. And also the main one that we've seen in the last year or so since becoming pro-water is the reaction around the hydration station that we have at Hutt Park. It is a killer with the kids. They absolutely love it. They're constantly refilling their bottles and we're seeing less sports drinks and fizzy drinks around the parks, and it's inviting that conversation about how water is better than those other drinks as well. So we've also started working with Healthy Families Lower Hutt in relation to our Play of the Day certificates, where we have replaced our fast food Play of the Day certificates with pool passes so that the kids get free entry to any of the Hutt City Council pools. So success for us through this initiative would be to not be seeing kids walking around with sports drinks. Our modules, they're only playing about 20 minutes of touch, if that, and it's not necessary. So it would be great if we could see them walking around just with water, with no fizzy drinks, no sports drinks, and definitely no energy drinks. One of the other areas is working with the vendors on our parks. At the moment, we don't have a lot of say as to who arrives and sets up, but we'd love to get some healthy alternative options out there that people can choose from. So if you're starting out on this journey, I would totally recommend trying to find someone that you can collaborate with. You're not a lone soldier out there. You'll be surprised at your council if they can help you, or otherwise there's some private companies who also have the same kaupapa. They may take this on board with you as well and work towards a healthy living at your parks.
Cool, so something also to note about this Hutt Park module is that it's the largest junior module in the world with around 2,500 juniors. This is important as it meant around 2,500 juniors and their families are influenced by the changes that Total Touch we're making. So from here, the initiative just grew. Wellington Rugby League came on board in the winter season. This created the opportunity for the initiative to be introduced at a regional level, as they had clubs from all over the Wellington region. This meant we had to work with other councils and bring them on side with this initiative. Getting these councils on board, I think, was a really key part of the initiative, as we needed to be able to demonstrate the benefit it would bring for that council and their community. The key for us was to get our pitch right and use our connections to get in the door. So firstly, the pitch. What do councils want out of the initiative? For some, it's just about getting numbers into their facilities. However, there's also a financial element. Will this cost us money? How much will it cost us? These conversations needed to be supported by data, so we went out there and we gathered some data. We knew anecdotally that children don't go to the pools by themselves. They take a sibling or friend or caregiver. So theoretically, someone should be paying an entry into the pool whenever a voucher is used. What we did, we conducted a survey to find this out. And yes, we in fact did find that on average, there were over 2 additional pool entries when a pool voucher was being used in that first batch. So now that we had our pitch, the other key was to get in front of the right people. Some councils like Lower Hutt, there was already a bit of a relationship there, so getting in the door was relatively easy. But others like Pere, we had no connections with, and we needed to find another way in. So we used the pool of Wellington Rugby League and their general manager at the time, Dave Whaumu, who was a local to the Hutt Valley and who was a former NRL and Kiwi player. Dave had a relationship with the former mayor of Pere City Council, so he opened that door for us. The combination of having the right pitch and the right connections in council and the right people at the table meant that all the council saw the benefits of the initiative for them and their community, and they jumped on board. This again really highlights the importance of those relationships. For Rugby League, we aligned our new Player of the Day certificate with their Be a Sport campaign, which looks at positive sideline behaviour. And here's just another little video from Māori TV and Wellington Rugby League about it.
He kaupapa hou kei te whakahaerehia e te uepuriki o te whanganui a Tara, hei whakatairanga I te oranga tangata. Ko ngā tai tamariki ka tohua hei kaitākro o te rā, ka whiwhi ki te koha I te kaumihira o te awa kairangi, kia kuhu kore utu ai ki te whare kaukau, whakarerea ana ko ngā koha kai o rarangaranga, anei a iru paranahi.
Ko ngā mātua, ko ngā tamariki hoki tērā, ko rata atu ki tēnei momo koha, ki te hi kaka hoki, te hapori riki o te whanganui a Tara.
It's just a nice touch after, like I said, you know, Saturday morning, they put all the hard work during the week, and, you know, just to say, hey, here's a certificate for your hard work.
I tono atu a healthy families o te awa kairangi ki a Wellington Rugby League, me te whakaaro, ko te uru a ngā tamariki ihu mania ki ngā papawai kanoho kore utu mai.
What a great initiative to get all our families, all our kids, our parents, our clubs and all our members on board with it, just to give an alternative to some of the player certificates that they've done in the past with McDonald's and KFC and Burger King and things like that.
Kaore a David Whaumu mo te whakawhānui atu I te kaupapa ki ngā pakeke, oi aro ana ngā whakaaro o Wellington Rugby League ke whakatū kaupapa orite.
To be honest, I haven't thought about that, but maybe a discount off petrol vouchers, some gym memberships and things like that. So those are things that we can have a look at.
E pukumahi ana Whaumu ki kaupapa ke atu, ko Be a Sport tērā e aki ana I ngā mātua, I ngā tamariki, I ngā whānau hoki, kia pai ake tā rātau tautoko mai te taha o te whira.
I know it's an amateur environment, but just getting away from the old, back in the days when everyone's swearing on the sidelines, drinking, smoking, that kind of atmosphere. I think those days are well behind us now.
Ko Wellington Rugby League tērā e whakarewa ana I te huarahi hauora, nā wai rā ka whai mai ngā rohe atu I tēnei tauira. Iru paranahi te kāia.
Cool, so after 2 successful launches with summer and winter codes, we focused on expanding the initiative to more sports. We used our local connections and worked at different levels to get more clubs on board. Some sports came on at the regional association level and some at the club level. A lot came from word of mouth, and we really just were reactive to clubs approaching us. As clubs came on board, we worked with them on promoting a pro-water environment. We'd roll out the certificates and we'd gather some data and then repeat the cycle. Each season, the numbers grew exponentially. Currently, there are around 70 clubs and 6 regional sporting organisations from Wellington all the way up to Horowhenua Kapiti that are part of the initiative. We have found that when a club logo features on a certificate, the clubs take enormous pride in this, and this helps us get buy-in into the pro-water, promoting a pro-water environment. These figures here are from 2019, so the numbers have grown slightly, but what it shows is the impact that the initiative is having. Again, that triple benefit, the number of clubs and codes that are promoting a pro-water environment, the number of pool entries and opportunities for physical activity for juniors and their whānau, the removal of fast food vouchers from the system and the breaking of the link between fast food and sport, the investment from council through the pool passes, and the regional reach of the initiative. So what's the feedback been like? We've found that the initiative has been a win-win situation. Kids love the swim vouchers, parents love that it isn't junk food and it's a fun activity that the whole family can do that doesn't cost a fortune. Clubs love it as it shows them looking after the well-being of their players and whānau. And councils love it as it shows they are supporting their people to be active and drives use of facilities. Here's another little video with some feedback we've received from community about the certificates. Okay, so going back to the watermelon slice conditions or systems change that Hayley did talk about earlier, how has this initiative influenced the system? At a regional and club level, we now have sports promoting pro-water policies. These messages are relayed to club members throughout the season and is becoming the norm. In support of these policies, practices are also changing. Sports are making sure water is accessible at their grounds and encouraging juniors to bring water bottles. In terms of resource flows, councils are now investing in junior sport through this initiative. We're finding that there are alternative sponsors that do align with healthy, family-friendly messaging as opposed to the traditional unhealthy sponsors. Clubs are also now requesting to local government for more water fountains in their sports grounds, and we're seeing more resource being prioritised for this. We are also putting the balance of power back into the hands of our clubs. They now have the option and don't need to rely on whatever's passed down to them from higher levels. The initiative has also enabled clubs to build relationships outside their familiar sports sector faces. The positive family-friendly promotion also gives clubs good publicity. All of this contributes to denormalising the role of fast food in sport and normalising water as the drink of choice. We now have juniors whose first experience of sport back in 2016 with our Total Touch Player of the Day certificates. These kids are now 8, 9 years old and potentially have only ever known healthy rewards, which we think is awesome. What were the challenges? So an obvious big one for us was around unhealthy sponsorship. A lot of sports were tied into agreements, or the amount of sponsorship they were getting was too significant to move away from. To combat this, we need to try and be flexible and work around sponsorship where possible. We know that it's not going to disappear overnight, and that it is also about small steps. Keeping the sponsor out of junior sports for us was the key. Another key challenge for us was getting real engagement on the pro-water kaupapa. Sometimes when we worked at a regional sporting organisation level, the pro-water messages weren't getting passed down effectively to our clubs. To combat this, we need to make sure that our comms are effective. This means that the messages are clear and the way we are communicating is through the right channels. So we have a proven product, but is it sustainable? How do we future-proof it? How do we grow even further? Over the past couple of years, we've been thinking about this, and we thought that a sponsor could be a good way to do this. This would eliminate cost as a barrier and allow us to grow and promote the initiative even further. Another big milestone here was the confirmation of a Player of the Day sponsor in Mitre 10. So this was due to start the winter season just gone, 2020, but obviously due to COVID has been pushed to the summer season coming up. This allows us for freedom to grow, more marketing, more collateral, and less barriers. This example has shown there's an appetite for alternative sponsors. We've proven that this can be replicated from one city to an entire region, so why not try to spread further? This is our Imagine If, and we're hoping to open up to others to invite on the journey and share our learnings. Thank you.
So just to wrap up, what can you do and how can you support this initiative? If you want to join the movement, then please get in touch with us. We'll share our contact details in the chat section, or if you want to follow our journey, you can also like our Healthy Families Hutt Valley Facebook page for all the Go the H2O Player of the Day updates. That's us, everyone. So thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Kia ora, Hayley. Kia ora, Tom. Thank you for your kōrero. It's so cool to hear how, a simple swap of a Player of the Day certificate and reward has just been a catalyst for so many other activities. Thank you. We do have quite a few questions, so I'll kick off. There's one on Facebook. Have you considered working with high-profile sports stars who are modelling the use of sports and energy drinks?
Yeah, we would love to. It's just about, how do we do it? If you've got connections there, we'd love to. We've talked with our regional sporting organisations about the opportunity. For them, it's been with the availability of these stars. So, yeah, that would be awesome.
Get in touch. When was the initiative started, and when was it pushed out into council?
So it was end of 2016, the summer season 2016-17. And we first started with our local council, Hutt City Council, as we're based in Hutt City Council. And as I mentioned, when we moved to more sports, there was a need to go regional, so we needed more councils on board. So we've gone as far up to Horowhenua District Council and Kapiti District Council, Kapiti Coast District Council. That's as far as we've gone so far.
Awesome. And one from Kerry Allen here. Who were the key council contacts that you worked through?
Yeah, so we're based within the Parks and Rec team at Hutt City Council. So what we try to do is go to our equivalents within other councils. It depends on the council, really. We've gone through the Parks Recs team, and as I mentioned, like Porirua, we had to go through outside connections to get in there. And I guess if other councils are wanting to come on board, or if you wanted to try this in your region, us as a council, we're happy to try and bridge that gap as well. So I know it's easier for us being in council to go to other councils, whereas if you're outside of a council trying to get in, it might be a lot harder. So if there is a need for us to supply some sort of data or support behind it, then we're happy to.
That would be awesome. We'd love to see councils supporting other councils and that kōrero going back and forth. Do you know if this is also from Kerry Allen, do you know if this kaupapa has expanded nationally through your regional partners, for example, Rugby League?
There's been conversations, so we've worked with Hutt Valley Softball and Wellington Softball, and they have talked with their other areas. It hasn't got off the ground yet, obviously, but there has been conversations. And there are other examples around the country. We've had like New Plymouth Council have reached out at some point. Bay of Plenty, I think the PHO up there have reached out. So there's been interest around the country.
Awesome.
I guess it's just about trying to get it off the ground in those areas and the support they need to do that.
Yeah, kia ora. And do these fast food sponsors only offer burger and food vouchers for the Player of the Day, or is there more to their involvement with the club, e.g. financial support? And Macca's do offer salads and sliced apples as an alternative.
Yeah, and they also got the coffee vouchers, I think, which is it's a good one for the adults there and the mums and dads. So a lot of sports it varies. So some sports just get the Player of the Day vouchers by going to their local franchise and asking. Some these sponsors sponsor huge amounts of money and huge amounts of resource. We've had some barriers at our locally with local codes that the amount of money they are contributing and the amount of resource they're putting into this club is just too significant to try and work around. So it's not just Player of the Day. It's money. It's resource. It's a lot more than that in a lot of cases.
And this is from Bea Enriquez, have you or are you planning to test this out with older players?
Again, we haven't, our focus has been on juniors. Like I said, during the mapping phase, when we've talked with clubs about the issues that came up, we've all agreed that the focus for them is more about their juniors rather than, they still care about the older players, obviously, but in terms of health and well-being and the easy wins, it was about their juniors and that next generation. So that's what we're focused on, to be honest. But you saw in that Wellington Rugby League video, you know, they mentioned possible options for older players, things like gym memberships or something.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment, we're pretty busy with this Play of the Day initiative and what we're doing. So if there's any more support out there for things like that, we'd be open to it as well.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Hayley and Tom. It was awesome to hear about your work. Really, thank you for coming on and sharing this with everyone here. I will now introduce Stella O'Connor from Healthy Families Invercargill. I see you're unmuted, Stella. If you want to share your slides and introduce yourself. Kia ora, Stella.
Kia ora, Caitlin. I'll just find my PowerPoint here. Are we going there?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so tēnā koutou katoa, ko Stella O'Connor, toku ingoa, nō mera heku aho. Now, firstly, apologies from Jared Cappy. He was intending to be here today, but couldn't. And thank you everyone for joining in on this webinar. I'm going to touch upon some of the mahi that Healthy Families Invercargill has been leading in the play system. Play was an area that we had seen that was a real gap in our community and a real opportunity as well. So play in New Zealand is under threat, as we all know. Just going to adjust my screen here. A lack of time, space and permission to play means fewer kids are having the same playful upbringing by previous generations. And there's a number of reasons for this. Factors like technology, a more risk-averse parenting approach, and housing means that families often don't have the backyards to get out and play in. So Healthy Families Invercargill has been focusing on increasing physical activity through play, and this is our goal here, as social and physical environments make it easy for families and communities to play. And then we feel that this will lead to increased play happening in our communities. We define easy as meaning fun, safe, accessible, challenging, sociable, and repeatable play. Okay. So taking a systems approach, we have partnered with a range of organisations who understand the importance of play. We are also advocating for play and influencing both key decision makers and the wider community to make it easier for all generations to play. So our kaupapa is really to sow the seeds for change with interventions designed to stimulate or disrupt the system and lead to long-term sustainable change, which will positively impact the factors that lead to chronic preventable illness. So this is the watermelon slice that Tom just referred to, the 6 conditions that hold systemic problems in place. And it really guides the focus, the areas that we focus our work in. And it also helps us to identify our long-term outcomes to reach success. And through this presentation, I've just bullet pointed some of these outcomes. Another model that we like to refer to is this level of perspective. And that really helps to guide our approach as well. By elevating our mahi from events to system structures and beyond, we can reach even more effective and sustainable actions. So our decision making has really been through community insights, and our approach for community engagement has been really varied and has included pop-up activations, either by ourselves or with others. And that's really helped us to create a baseline of understanding of our local play system. And it's also provided us with opportunities to test what works. And this has helped to lead and inform our mahi all the way through. Oops, lost my little thing here. Okay, so one of these activations was when we partnered with council, roading, contractors and retailers to activate a street. And this really highlights how teams that typically aren't thinking about play can have an impact through thinking differently. It was a really wet and cold and in the middle of winter, this is Invercargill I'm talking about, And we had over 500 people come and play with spare parts and learn about what was under the ground and look at diggers. And prior to this, the disruption from roadworks was having a real negative impact on the business. But what this event showed us was that if you activate community leaders to enable an environment for play, then people will come. So these new relationships have led to other opportunities to partner with others to think differently. And the poster here on the right here is an example of where that relationship has allowed us to collaborate with another roading contractor and councils, and where they've opened up their planting day to the community to come along and join in. So one of our earlier interventions have been the play pods. We had insights from the under 5 community groups that really highlighted there was a lack of undercover and low cost physical activity options. So this led us to co-design these play pods of equipment with our communities and to be available at community hubs at low cost in places like our indoor stadium and at the Murahiku Marae. So these have been really highly successful, with the pods are now often fully booked by families, and their existence has activated other changes. Things like the Marae are now funding a full-time Marae activity coordinator, making use of the play pods and providing more opportunities for Māori whānau to be physically active. So this intervention has also just recently been extended to the Bluff community, who are going to use them as a platform to mobilise their community as well. So feedback from parents had commented that the pods were exactly what Southland needed, particularly in the winter months, to allow families to connect as groups, and parents said that using them had given them ideas on how they could replicate play at home. So disc golf, Disc golf was another example where insights from Invercargill youth needed more low or no cost physical activity options, and identified disc golf was a popular option that was not available in our region. So Healthy Families Invercargill facilitated a working group to create a disc golf course in Queen's Park, and now there's a club called Disc Golf South, which is the biggest in New Zealand, and they've actually helped set up 2 other courses as well as one in a rest home around our region. So we got feedback from our park rangers that they could see more teenage males entering the park in a positive manner, and they've seen more groups of workplaces and groups of families across all generations getting out, as well as the underutilised areas of the parks are now thriving with people. So in both of those community-led interventions, Healthy Families Invercargill played the role to facilitate the project management and accessing the funding and putting in place systems to keep those interventions sustainable. So things like making sure you could hire the discs at the corner store, or negotiating low court rates for the play pod hire. Okay, so to disrupt the way that people think and their beliefs and attitudes or mental models, we needed to showcase to our community that they themselves are enablers of play through the play pod intervention and through our free play video. So I'm going to play the free play video now, and you can access this on our Healthy Families Invercargill website if you want to look at it in the future. And we actually have it broadcast over local media channels, including being played at the stadium where the play pods are available. And this was about giving confidence back to parents that they didn't need to be skilled facilitators, but just needed some imagination, and they can enable play themselves.
Let me, please me, watch me, help me.
Free play encourages imagination, creativity, problem solving, cooperation.
Oops, sorry. Having a bit of trouble
Social
here.
skills in the building of self-esteem. It's the way kids make sense of the world around them and allows them to have a go, make mistakes, and take some risks without getting hurt. Free play builds the kind of free and easy, try it out, do it yourself kids that our future needs. So how do you do it? Step 1. Create a fun environment. Get out as much equipment as you want and spread it around the area. Be as creative as you can. Step 2. Let them play. Just let them go for it. Children have big imaginations, so let them create their own world and meanings with the equipment. Step 3. Leave them to play. Give them the time and opportunity to explore and work things out for themselves. Step 4. Watch them play. Let them know you're interested and care about them enjoying the experience. Actively watching is about understanding what motivates them to keep playing. Step 5. Help them play. When you know what they enjoy, you can provide more opportunities that will allow your child to play in ways which are fun, challenging, and make them feel good about themselves. So there you have it. You don't need to be the play expert because you've already got one. As adults, we need to give them the opportunity and they'll do the rest. And most importantly, it's all about being together and having fun.
Please, mate. Watch me play. Help me play. Let me. Please, mate.
Awesome. So we also discovered from engaging with our community that many didn't even know that there were playgrounds even in their own streets or behind their own houses. So we partnered with the council and Newmat, which is a business that hosts a website called Playgrounds Near Me, to map all our local playgrounds and promote it locally. So that's a service that they actually provide. So we've been able to influence and support community activation days, particularly in high deprivation areas, so that our councils are able to get a more complete understanding of the lived experience in these communities and how communities could use their playgrounds and parks and reserves to be more active. And the impact of this has been a redirection of resource into these areas. So as well as that, we've been able to also give evaluation support or inside analysis. An example of this is the Tibet Street Reserve here, which sits in a deprivation 10 community. It was up for disposal, but through community voice, our council reversed the decision, and now we are working alongside them and the local community to reimagine how the space can lead to better opportunities for increased wellbeing, physical activity and play. Engagement with the community described the reserve as unloved, unappealing, but desperately wanting to hang on to this oasis of green amongst their high density housing. This is a place where they come out on Christmas Day to play cricket. So now the community group has had planting days, and they have also sought more funding for further planting and installation of a basketball system. So now we're seeing our stakeholders have taken on processes and practices to involve community for insight-led decision making. And through these relationships, Healthy Families Invercargill is currently involved in supporting the Parks team on their play strategy. So the largest project underway in Invercargill at the moment is the redevelopment of the city centre's business district, the CBD. The demolition work and the subsequent building projects have not only completely changed the landscape in the CBD, but has also created several opportunities for Healthy Families Invercargill to play a key role in influencing not only aspects of the redevelopment process, but more importantly, the decision makers, community leaders and the community to think differently about the importance of play and physical activity. We've been invited to be part of a working group called Activate Invercargill to connect this innovative streets funding and approach to the CBD master plan processes. So we were able to bring along the extensive community voice that we've been gathering to start testing and trialling activations in the CBD. And we've started already with some pop-up play spaces during the rebuild. And we were able also to be involved and partner with the redevelopment, Invercargill's redeveloper, Invercargill Central, on an artwork project to invite the community to decorate the fencing panels before they were erected that surround the redevelopment. We got a great response from the community, and it has shown our key decision makers just how involving community can also lead to community wellbeing and increased play and physical activity options. So here we were able to influence the theme for this artwork, or the whole art project, to be Tamatu Tama Ora, through physical wellbeing we thrive. And we achieved the goal of encouraging families and young people not only to visit and walk around the CBD, but also be physically active in the area. And this is the draft, actually, it's not erected yet, of a hoardings project. We saw the project as an opportunity to profile Māori culture, and we've been co-designing this mural with some kuras kohangareo. It sits across 10 panels, and it shows a mindfulness exercise that acknowledges Māori atua. And in the first corner of the panel, you'll see a QR code, which actually links to a video that we created with those organisations that we worked with. And we're currently establishing a semi-permanent play in the CBD by working with the developer Invercargill Central and councils and the neighbouring retailers group to establish a play trail in and around the CBD. And this will be anchored by a container that we're going to call Uncontained Play. It's going to be custom lined and painted with a roller door and perhaps a deck, and it'll host some semi-fixed interactive equipment, some construction equipment and some sound play. This is just sort of a bit of an example here. And also there'll be various other stations around the CBD that the retailers will look up to be part of that play trail. And we really see this as our retailers enabling play, but also influencing a future permanent destination playground, which is what we've heard from our community insights. So just reflection on some of the work that we've been doing. The first one here, do the mahi in the high deprivation areas, really underpins Healthy Families New Zealand kaupapa. So it's not new to us, but it was really new to a lot of our stakeholders. When we presented our desktop research of census data and community voice, there was a real realisation from our stakeholders just how important these spaces are to our communities. There are no trampolines in the backyards here, and often the community just don't feel safe in some of those spaces. So the right investment in these areas can make a huge impact on wellbeing in these communities. Also, advocating through community voice. Don't underestimate the value of community voice and how you get it. Community engagement is not about coming to us, but about going to them. And advocating alone is not enough. You've got to get out on the ground and do the do and share back. Gain the community voice and let those influencers and funders see it in action. Bring them along. Building the connections and the relationships is so important. Everyone needs to be involved and understand all the way through the initiatives. The impact may take a while, but when we are making decisions on what the community is telling us, so we have to be prepared to test and adapt all the way along. We can all play a role in ensuring the places where we spend most time supporting health and wellbeing, and Healthy Families Invercargill role has been to facilitate that to happen. And we feel now is even more important than ever due to the stresses caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. We believe that play can have an even bigger role in our community's physical, mental and social wellbeing. And we have really noticed that there's now an appetite more than ever to collaborate to activate change. So that's all from me. Thanks, Caitlin. If there's any questions that anyone would like to ask.
Kia ora, Stella, and big mihi to you and your team, and also Jared as well. Thank you for sharing what you guys have been doing, and also how you've been making the most of disruption, you know, roadworks and demolition, and turning it into something positive, but also how you've talked to stakeholders and people, you know, families in the community, but also at the levels at council as well, and those decision makers and roading people as well. That's awesome. We do have some questions here. Firstly, from Triana Armour, how much is it to hire the play pods?
Yeah, so the play pods, we negotiated with our local stadium. So normally courts are like $30 for an hour, but we negotiated hire of the play pods to be $15 during the day between 9 and 3 o'clock. And that includes the hire of the play pods. So there's money going back for replacement of the equipment as part of that as well. So we get groups of people coming to use them, so it's really reasonable. And the same with the marae, they've done the same sort of cost, so really low cost for our communities.
Yeah, that is. That's awesome. Makes it really accessible. Have you noticed a change? So this is from Bea Enriquez. Have you noticed a change in the perspectives of community parental permissions from your play events and activations?
Yeah, definitely. We've definitely had the feedback that people just have said to us that this has actually given them ideas on what to do at home, and how I think when we also did the play pods initially, we thought it was an insight from our under fives, but once we saw them at the marae, the older kids and adults were using them all as well, so that was really cool.
This is from Catherine Manning. Hikitia Te Ha, is this based on the Hikitia Te Ha yoga program?
Yes, it is. It's we've acknowledged Rui Hindle in that as well, but the schools and kura and kohangareos that have been using it sort of have adapted their own version of it and created it.
And this is from Toby Falkner. What ways have you found to engage teenagers in play?
Yeah, we have in the play trail at the moment, we're looking at the insights that teenagers have told us, different things that they're wanting. So there's going to be looking at things like table tennis, tetherball. We've had the kids zone, which was normally held over a week in an indoor at a school. It was cancelled due to COVID, and we sort of did like a pop-up event with the council during a weekend, and had a lot of those things through the streets and through the arcades, and we got a lot of insights then on different things that teenagers liked and enjoyed, things like mini golf, and they actually just like a little bumping spaces that they can actually connect with each other and have things there that they can do, whether it's playing Jenga or cornhole or something like that.
Awesome. So those are all our questions. We do have some time if anyone would like to, oh, just one moment, I'll just see if one's come through. Sorry, I'll just ask this question now. This is from the Mills family. Love your work, Stella. Could I ask whether when you talk about the play pod scheme, does it mean that you yourselves sought and applied for the funding and now loan the play pods to the community?
Yes, so when we applied for the funding ourselves and set them up at those community hubs like the marae and the stadium, but we've also helped other organisations apply for funding as well, and just help them set up the process as well to make sure that they're doing it sustainably. There's a small cost going back to keep the equipment cleaned and also to replace, you know, any broken equipment. But part of the whole process is actually doing it with the families so that they can choose what's in those play pods, and I think that's the most important thing as well, not just to replicate exactly what we've done the first time, but actually to co-design it with the whānau as well.
Oh, kia ora. So we do have time to answer anyone else's questions. I invite you now to unmute yourselves and you can ask Tom, Hayley or Stella a question if you'd like. I'll wait a few seconds if anyone would like to do that. Okay. Oh, well, thank you, Hayley, Tom, Stella, for talking about your mahi, especially around play, actually, in the kind of sports club setting, but also in our urban environment and in our towns as well. So, kia ora, big mihi to you and your teams. Thank you for all of your hard work. And I acknowledge all of you for joining us today. It's been really awesome. Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa mō tō tautoko, so thank you for participating. I'll just close us with a karakia. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atawhao tō tātou ariki, a iu karaiti, mi te aroha o te atua, mi te whiwhinga tahitanga, ki te wairua tapu, ake, amene. Kia ora everyone, stay safe, take care.
Ka kite.
Ka kite.